So I'm Sue. This is the New Jersey Mycological Taxonomy Tuesday. This is where we hope everyone will share what they have found during the week. This is Members Find is the topic tonight. If anyone has something that they haven't already sent in to Taxonomy Tuesday at njmyco.org, if you would just type your name and that you have something to share into the chat, we'll call everyone in order. Hunter, would you like to start with your material?
I sure could. That would be fine. I didn't have much time to prepare any like what I want to say much, but let's do it.
Okay.
That I
I'll
have
share
some
my screen.
time, so. Oh, you're going to share for me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want to do it yourself, you're welcome to
No,
do
I
so.
can't. I can't today for sure.
Okay.
I'm on my iPad and the photos aren't here.
Well, I'm on an Android tablet, so it's not that much different.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I came back down to Southern Illinois. I don't know if you remember, but I came down like 10 days ago to start the morel season and got skunked. And so I found my first morel, and it was Verpa bohemica, which is not pictured here. I didn't get a good picture of that, but I found that on Monday. And then this morning I found this, and I think it's maybe also Verpa bohemica. Actually, I'm not 100% sure.
I didn't get the genus that you're saying.
Verpa.
Oh, Verpa, the Verpa. Okay, I've never seen a Verpa. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's, yeah, and I'm sorry because I'm not in my own home, and I've been out trying to find the real morels like since just an hour ago and got back and took a shower, so I couldn't really look into it. But I believe it's one of the Verpas. That I kept it because I'm interested in doing some microscopy on some of these early morels, false morels, whatever you want to call them, because there's so much going on with the false morels, especially right now. So I thought I'd keep it, and hopefully I'll get to do some microscopy on it. But I think it's for Verpa. It may also be Verpa bohemica. So Verpa bohemica looks, and this might not be it, but it looks very much like a morel. The only difference in the look is that the cap attaches at the very top of the stem only. And I believe that's how this is also. And so it's, I believe all the Verpas are like that. Verpa conica, Verpa bohemica, and then, this one's, I'm not sure which one it is, but the other conica I found really looked much more morel-like. The cap had a lot more fissures and grooves and pits, whereas this doesn't. It's almost more Helvella-ish.
Yeah, that's why I looked at it. I thought it was a Havella.
Yeah.
Hunter,
Yeah.
do you mean Verpa bohemica has more folds and ridges?
Yes.
Yes, I think you said conica.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and
that's
that one
all right.
like
Yeah,
none.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. This one is ambiguous. It looks a little bit like a Verpa bohemica, which I've never found around here, but I've seen plenty of photos. Or maybe it's a Verpa conica that's just got more folds in it than usual. I just looked on Myco Quebec. There is a very big difference in spore size for the two species.
Okay.
So hopefully you've got it lying down on a microscope slide, because you're going to want mature spores.
Yeah, well, so I'm out of town. It's in a little collection box in the refrigerator. And I mean, even if I had, I mean, that's something I'd like to talk about is how to do this traveling. I mean, without bringing your, short of actually bringing the microscope with you, or is that really what you have to do?
Okay, here's what to do. Have some microscope slides with you. And then, for instance, in the case of this mushroom, you would lie it down on the microscope slide until you can see a little bit of a spore deposit. It doesn't have to be very thick. In fact, too thick is no good. And then just wrap up the microscope slide in a piece of wax paper. I would not use foil. Foil is treated with chemical.
Oh, okay.
I think it is because I've had some not so good results, using foil or
So you don't think you should put a
scraped
cover
from
slip
foil.
on? You don't think
Excuse
you would
me?
put a cover slip on first?
No, you put the cover slip on after you get it back home, and you mount the spores in some sort of liquid. This is for collecting spores while you're away from home and away from your microscopes.
Yeah, I thought you could just put the cover slip on and take it off again, then put your liquid underneath.
Maybe you could do that, but I wouldn't do it that way because I think the spores might dry out. If you mount in some sort of liquid, the liquid will dry. The slip will get stuck to the slide. What I just explained, I've done many times. It works really
And-
well.
And
Just use wax paper.
do you tape it so it doesn't come undone or something?
I just fold the wax paper a few times and then I have a piece that's a little bit wider than the length of the microscope slide, and then I just sort of fold it up with the slide inside. I try to keep track of what side of the slide has the spore deposit on it. I make a little label with a little piece of paper. Put the little piece of paper in on the folded up wax paper, but that's not completely folded. And then fold it up a little more so the paper is also folded inside the wax paper, and the paper just has, the name of the thing that I'm trying to study. So I've done this when we're on like week-long vacations, and the spores are always fine, and I'm always able to look at them at home.
Cool. And then you'll also bring the specimen home too. Like,
Yeah. Well, you should dry it out.
yeah. So then, if you're away, are you bringing a small dehydrator or?
Sometimes I bring a dehydrator with me. Yeah, I've been taking when we go on a long, like a week vacation. I've been taking dehydrator with me.
Okay. So
You can hang it in like a south facing window.
yeah, I did
in the
bring a
sun.
screen, like in case I found like tons of morels and wanted, like so many, I wasn't going to be able to get them home fresh. But I mean, for one little Verpa, I have to get used to kind of running a dehydrator or just doing something for like one little specimen. It's just counterintuitive to me, but this is what we want. We might have to do it, so it might have to be done.
Yeah, and actually, my understanding is that I think I've seen observations online where Steve Russell has been putting numerically coded names on Verpa conica samples that he's sequenced. Now, I don't know if it's a species complex, but that seems to imply that it might be.
Yeah,
I don't know
it does
anything about
sound-
Verpa bohemica. I never find it, but I always find Verpa conica. Every spring I find some.
So which
Yeah.
species is the opinion that this is before we go to a microscope on it? Because then it seems easy.
I think it's conica.
Okay.
I think
Oh,
it's a conica that just has, it's just that the cap's a little more distorted than usual. That's just a guess, though. That could be wrong.
And
The
this one, it says the
conica-
asci is going to be 8 spored, so that should be easy to differentiate.
Do they have different, the asci have different number of spores in them? I didn't know that.
Yeah, according to mushroom expert, the key that they have for
Oh,
Verpa is eight
that's, that's
spored for the
one.
conica and 2 spored for the bohemica.
Oh, because the bohemica spores are gigantic. So there's only like 2 of them in each ascus. Well, there you go. All you need to do is scope like a little piece of cap. Just scrape
Great.
a little. You can wait till you get home to do that.
Okay.
That
Perfect.
would be good enough for in this case.
Okay. Great. I'll check it out. And I mean, I know the conica I found last year, it was a lot darker and the cap was more open though. So I don't know. So yes.
You know what? Usually conica is a little bit darker, but I'm not sure the color matters all that much. Of course, there might be more than one conica species also.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I'm looking at this again. I that conica is really, it's just a guess. It's this might be bohemica. I'm that's not used to seeing bohemica because I don't find it.
okay. And that also looks very similar to a half free morel. And so it may be that I'm possibly, I mean, I know the difference in the cap attachment, but it might be that still the yeah, I'll try to get the microscopy done and get
Yeah,
get
another thing you can check to distinguish Verpa from Morchella, in this case, you would be distinguishing from Morchella punctipes, the eastern half-free morel.
right.
If you section vertically, the inside of the stipe of a
Oh, true.
Verpa will have at least some remnants of the stuffing because it's stuffed at first, but then as the stipe expands, the stuffing pulls apart. But usually the inner wall of the stipe will have some cottony sort of coating on it.
Okay.
For a Morchella punctipes, the stipe is completely hollow. It's just a hollow chamber with no deposits on the inside.
And then it does have the little points on the exterior of the stipe, which I really don't see on this specimen at all. So that's good.
Oh
Um,
yeah, well yeah, this is not Morchella.
no, for
No,
sure.
I'm almost certain of that.
No, me too. Me too. Okay. So yeah, so then I kept searching. I found that, and then I found some more mushrooms. Oh, the real thing, the real deal there. Um, Morchella americana, probably. Or probably. I haven't even really looked into it, but
What's the habitat for this one?
this is like bottomland creek side.
I mean, what kind of trees were near?
Oh, probably ash, poplar, maybe elm, tulip.
True poplar or tulip poplar?
Probably tulip poplar.
Yeah, tulip poplar is not really a poplar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
actually in the magnolia family.
oh, okay.
But
And
some
then,
people find morels by true poplar, especially
yeah.
like in the Great Lakes region,
Mm-hmm.
which would be like aspen. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. These are really pretty young trees. And I'm not really sure what everything was. But there is a lot of tulip poplar in the area, and there's also um that so then there's also this maple that sort of looks like black locust bark. Um, but I found morels around that too, and that was sort of around as well.
Yeah, the habitat that you find morels near in the Midwest does not offer a whole lot of insight as to where you might find morels in the Northeast.
Yeah, yeah,
Sadly, yeah.
yeah.
This is
Well,
Southern Illinois.
yes.
Yeah,
Mhm,
okay, but
yeah. And they've had a drought for 3 years, and then now it's the opposite. They had like a deluge, and it's many of the areas are flooded out right now. Many of the roads are closed.
Mm.
And so, yeah, but I don't think it's gonna, I mean, it would be nice if it changed the overall trend, but I have a feeling that they'll be dry again this year, but we'll see. Hopefully
Did-
not.
Did you find this morel and any of the other mushrooms before or after the deluge?
Oh, everything you're seeing is after the deluge, about
Oh,
2 or 3 days.
so but these must be like well drained areas where you're finding this.
Um, it was one of the wettest areas.
Huh.
I have hunted and I actually wore like knee-high rubber boots for the first time. Like I bought them for mushroom hunting and I've never felt the need to wear them, but down here right now I did. And yeah, so some of the area, like the creek went across 2 sides of the road, and one side it was very wet, and I found morels on both sides. This yeah, it seemed like it had really good drainage actually on this side.
That's interesting though to me that you'd find them in really wet areas.
Oh
Of
yes.
course, they're just so hard to find around here. They're very picky about where they grow, but
I was really surprised to learn that too, because up in Lake County in northern Illinois, there was an area where it was so wet, and I ran into some morel hunters years ago, and he told me he's found them like in puddles before. I'm like, oh, really? And so yeah, bottomlands, even the East Coast, mega mushroom star who's dead now, Larry, oh my gosh,
Gary Linkoff?
Gary Linkoff, thank you. Yeah, I mean, he says sycamore bottomlands. And so I've looked in those and found them there as well. Very wet places. Yeah.
actually, I found some nice big morels one time in Maryland by some big sycamore trees that were down kind of low by a small creek.
There
And
you
it
go.
was damp in that area too. Yeah, that's like one of the only times. I also found fire morels in wet, muddy areas. But the fire morels is an anomaly kind of thing. The forest is really changed by the forest fire, and creeks get rerouted, and so it's a very strange sort of situation finding fire morels.
Yeah. Well, they do like disturbed soil, they say, and water will disturb soil.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I agree. This is Morchella americana.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Or the only other thing I could be is one of the cryptic species that looks just like americana. There's one or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I was excited to start getting into them. So hopefully the next day or two, rake them in. I hope
Did you
so.
take it home to eat?
Oh, yes. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. I haven't eaten it yet, but yeah, I have a nice like lunch bag almost full. So I'm excited. Pretty good. So I have 1 or 2 more, I think, right? Oh
Yes.
yeah. And I remember last year I showed something like this too, and there's 2 more of the um same species right next to it. I think it's a Peziza, uh, but this is something we see this time of year during morel season, and the next 2 pictures we could look at.
Is this growing on the ground or on a stump?
Yeah, it's growing in moss on a like right on a trail. There's some rocks, and it's kind of a rocky highland. These are in a rocky highland.
If you slice the flesh on the bottom of the cup where it's joins to the substrate,
Yeah.
then if you see a little bit of light purple coloration on the flesh, that would be an indication that this is the species that used to be called Peziza phylogena
Okay.
or phylogena. It's in a new genus now. I forget the name of the new genus. It's one
Oh,
of the more common springtime cup fungi.
okay.
There's
Um,
also Peziza varia. That's another possibility. I think the spores are a lot different for those two species. I would have to review that.
so I did take and this is a different mushroom here, but I did try to get the base of it and it sort of fell apart. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah, and it seemed barely to be attached to moss. There wasn't, a stem really or much of anything, but I did take a piece or two, so I can try to do microscopy. Maybe I don't have the wax paper or the slides, but I have the specimens. If they make it home, maybe I can do something with it too, and try to figure it out.
I'm going to look on Michael Quebec and see what it says about the spores for those two species. My guess is this is the thing that used to be Peziza phylogena because that's the brown one.
Uh-huh.
Um,
The other
and
one's
then-
like creamy.
yeah, the other one is kind of yellow or creamy colored, right? Usually. Those are the
Yeah.
two most common spring species of cup fungi. There are a few others though as well that you can.
Those gyrometer cups come out too that you found.
Yeah, those are now. What's the genus for those?
Oh, is it the
Just they're back in Dicina.
right?
The Dicina ancilis, that's in Dicina now. But there's this other thing I found that's now in this new genus called Piscidicina or Piscidicina or something like that. Leucoxantha. That one looks more like a cup than
Okay,
the Dicina
and
or
that was
Discina.
in that presentation, your specimen, right?
Yeah,
For
he
that.
showed Discina warnii, which looks exactly like Discina ancilis. And we're not sure, if there's any difference in substrate or or the spores. They seem pretty much identical to me. I sent a bunch of Discina to Miller. What's his first name?
Oh,
He's
Andy.
Yeah, he's an ASCII guy. I sent him a bunch of stuff last year, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I have a good spot where a lot of those come out. They grow on wood usually, although sometimes like
Oh,
on woody debris on the ground, I guess you can probably find them. But I find them on big old decayed mossy logs. Oh,
okay.
the Luca the Pixi or Piscidicina Leucoxantha, and then there's another species too that's called I forget what it's called, Persicana or something like that. It's a new species. Those I have found on the ground. The few times I found them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I'd like to see some. I'm hoping to run into some of those other cups in the false morel cups from that Decina group.
Yeah, if spore morphology will get you a lot. Will get you into the genus with all of those. There's differences in the spores.
Yes,
That's
I love how I'm forgetting his name now. How in his slideshow he had the spores like right on the same slide as the specimens for the false morels, and I took screenshots of most of them. So I'm really that's part of why I'm really interested in trying to find some so I can look at the spores and be like, oh yeah, that's it. But I think would you need to have the immersion oil to see those? mean,
No,
that,
the spores are gigantic and the ornamentation is big.
okay.
It's all really big. The only one that's a little bit tricky is the one that used to be Gyromitra brunia. I forget what genus that one's in now.
Neogyromitra.
Yeah, that one. Yep.
That one to try, and that
Now, Alden says that
these
the spores of that one have no apiculi. He's calling them apiculi. Technically, an apiculus is where a basidiospore attaches to a basidium. So that's a little bit of a poetic license, let's say, using the word apiculi. But it's a good word to use. It gets across the idea. But the Brunia one, Alden's just says no apiculi. So it sounds like there's no ornamentation. But if you mount spores from a drop for Brunia in distilled water, use distilled water, don't use KOH. And I'm not sure, a stain might also work. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back through my photos and my notes. But there is ornamentation on the spores of Brunia. They're just like these edges of clouds, sort of, that surround the perimeter or the wall, the outer wall of the spore, mostly concentrated near the poles. And now that you need to look pretty closely to see those because they're fairly almost transparent. But there is a little bit of ornamentation on them, but they don't have the apiculi. They don't have like the knobs or the fish tails or anything like that.
I see. Okay. So
Okay.
that's my next specimen. I think that my last picture is
Okay.
Brunia. But I did want to say that and there's two pictures of it. It's so small down here in southern Illinois, and in northern Illinois it's huge. And so that's another reason I'm like, I want to, I have that one too. I want to check out the spores, because I'm wondering, could these also be two different species? But this here is something from my mushrooms 2ID folder, and I hope I didn't show it before. There's a picture of the cap as well. I think it is that is it Pterodaxter, the one that Cortinarius split into?
I don't know those yet. Yeah, I have not really studied and found enough of those. Thaxogaster, I think it's called, or something like that.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. I'm thinking that's what this is. But they're very similar to Cortinarius. They were in Cortinarius, and then now this is another genus. But I'm not positive. I just was hoping to throw a label on it. It's a very old picture. But you can see there's
What
kind of
season was it?
September, I believe. I did check, on my file, because it's super old. I mean, like years, and years.
Those strands of cortina underneath there, the sort of dark
Yeah.
filaments. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And they're a pretty neat group. If you have a chance to check them out, they're kind of colorful. And yeah, I'd like to learn more about them and hopefully see them again, because I think this is the only one I've seen. Thaxterogaster, I think.
How do you spell that? Is that the RHOT?
I think it's Thaxogaster.
Okay. Don't have it yet.
let's see.
Yeah, I got a few more letters here. Hang on. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, Thaxterogaster. Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another
Oh, okay.
Oh,
New for
syllable.
me. Tax.
And actually, a week or two ago, I shared that mushroom that was like violet purple inside, but it was cut and it was a terrible specimen. And I don't know if anyone remembers, but I'm starting to suspect, and it was gilled. I'm starting to suspect it might be also a Thaxogaster because some of them are like that.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I see Thaxogaster preparations. And definitely feel like I've seen that before. So maybe,
Yeah, they're pretty colorful.
yeah.
All right, well, in the chat, we have two other people who have mushrooms, Lila and Chris. Lila, you're up next if you're ready.
Yeah, let me find my stuff here. Well, I guess I gotta log into iNet. All right, nothing exciting, but I got outside into the yard for a few minutes, so I picked up a few things. All on sticks. So let's start with this one, super common. I'll share. Okay.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah. And there's
That
just tons of this
that can
today.
photograph really well. It with when light shines through it and stuff. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all these
Normally-
little dots on it too were interesting, kind of textured. But yeah, I think they're kind of attractive actually when they're nice and plump. Similar photo, and from a distance, kind of what they look like on a stick.
Yeah, the form is really interesting. I don't know how you would describe that, but they have such a kind of interesting form, I think.
Yeah, they're kind of three-dimensional. Looking at them now, they sort of remind me a little bit of a mountain range with ridges, peaks, and ridges and valleys and whatnot.
Do you have a name for this?
Yeah,
Exidia crenata,
crenata. Yep.
which I guess used to be called Ricissa.
Yeah, now they're saying that we might have both species here in North America, but it seems like crenata is regarded as the more, at least the more common one.
Yeah, I found this yesterday too.
Yeah,
It's nice to have stormy weather, bring things down for us.
that does definitely helps. What I read was Ricissa may be here, but on willow seems to be a willow associate. This was on oak. So I must say, I don't think I've ever found anything like this on willow. I don't find much. And I think I find Angiospermarum americana maybe on willow, but nothing that looks like this.
You mean auricularia angiosperma?
Auricularia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, auricularia americana grows on pine.
okay, yeah. Okay. So that was that one. Yeah, all right. And then I saw this one, which I think is nigricans, but
Oh, same as me.
same same bunch of downed branches, but I really only found one branch that looked like this. All the other ones looked like the first specimen that I showed. So
Yeah, my branch yesterday had the nigrans on, or glandulosa, I don't know which, on one side, and the other side it has the recissa or
okay,
crenata,
yeah.
same branch.
Oh, that's unusual. Yeah, I'm not sure which name to use. Like Sue just said,
Yeah, they
nigrations
describe it as one is supposed to coalesce together
or
versus the other one
glandulosa.
doesn't.
I,
But
I,
I think the nigrans is dark, really, really dark black. I mean, not reddish at all.
I think they're both really dark, if not both black. And I'm not sure how to tell them apart, really. There seems to be disagreement on those two species, how to distinguish them. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, like I
Yeah,
said, they
yeah.
describe it how it somehow one is more distinct than the other ones are merges together. Mine's a little more plumper than what Lila's
Yeah,
showing.
those criteria seem rather dubious to me.
Yes.
Anything like this can grow and bump into one another and merge. It's I'm not sure. They're I think even the spore sizes are just about the same because I've been through this myself with bringing this kind of stuff home and trying to put a name on it.
I mean, it must have been super wet if it even looked this plump, right?
Yeah, yeah. We past couple of days have been pretty damp. Drizzle kind of nonstop sort of situation, at least yesterday. And then I don't know what the weekend was. I wasn't here, but it's like, all right, this is clearly not the same thing as that other stuff because I saw tons and tons of the other stuff and I only saw one stick really that looked like this. So nigricans or glandulosa, I'm not sure which is which. Same thing with Exidia and crenulata. So, but this is the name I put on. Crenata, yeah. All right, and is Jason here?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's enough here to say what this is.
Oh, wow,
Some
that's cool.
Physica.
Yep, Physica.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that all over the place too. It's quite beautiful, really.
Yeah.
Mm.
That is so neat.
So
Man, that thing's like 50% apothecia.
yeah, it's really dense with
Crazy.
it. So also on oak, all of this stuff was on pin oak that came down out of the trees, dead.
Need to do analysis, I guess, to propose a species name here.
Yeah, there's two species that are common on branches like that. And you've got to do chemistry tests to tell them apart.
Chemistry, yeah.
Or wait until the taxonomy gets figured out and they get lumped together, which is what I'm hoping happens.
What are the two common ones that you think it might be?
One is stellaris
Uh-huh.
and the other is pumilior.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think Dorothy did some from the lichen walk, some chemistry, and determined whatever it was that was found there to be maybe Parmelia, I can't remember now, but okay. All right. That's 3 for me. I'll stop so someone else can go.
Okay, Chris.
All right.
Chris, can you hear us?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My thumbs just weren't doing it. So this was along a trail just outside of a lair. You could see a couple of the clumps of them there, all deliquescing.
Guild fungi, nice.
These are all over my neighborhood right now. It's funny, they even like the way they start to dry out, because I bring it in the house and that deliquesce even comes to a halt, and then it just starts to kind of dry out.
Scientific water review for 69.
Are they dropping any spores at all, or it just dries
Oh,
out without? Oh wait, there we see something. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
black spores. Even all the way right around the little collar at the bottom. But yeah, they're all over the neighborhood. And I can never put a name to these things because they're all, I don't know, for me, it seems like there's like 12 of them that are all, they could be either or.
And what is the habitat?
Yes.
Right on the ground next to either maples or oaks.
Yeah, probably buried from buried roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're Coprinellus, but they look a little different than maybe just because they're wide open. So sometimes you can tell Coprinellus from the scoping the spores. One of the Coprinellus species, one of the more common ones, I think it might be the actual Mycentinis and not the Mycentinis lookalike, has spores.
Can you tell me what the difference would be between Coprinellus and Coprinus?
Well, Coprinus in our area is only Coprinus comatus. That's the only species that remains in that genus in the eastern North America. But I think you mean Coprinopsis, like Coprinopsis altifolia, Coprinopsis. What's that one called? Anyway, Coprinopsis will deliquesce even if you bring it in the house. Coprinellus deliquesces when it's really wet, like these ones Chris found that they were probably after a lot of rain, because they're deliquescing in situ. If the weather's really dry, they'll just dry out in situ, like they do when you bring them in your house. I think these are Coprinellus.
What about the presence of scales? Is that enough to help you put it into one of
the kind of scales you find? Coprinopsis, when they do have scales on the cap, they tend to be bigger scales. Coprinellus in the Mycentinis group, it's called section Mycacii, I think. Most of them have the tiny mica-like granules, like glistening pieces of sand or something, really, but smaller than grains of sand.
Yeah, none of these have that. Really.
Yeah, but if it just rained, it gets washed off. The ornamentation is easily washed away. So another thing this could be,
This is dirt.
the other thing that this could be genus Tulosesus, a relatively new genus that's, I think it's split off from Coprinellus. And I'm not sure how to tell it apart from Coprinellus. So look up, try to, go to a source like Michael Quebec or something and look through the Tulosesus. I think that's the name, Tulosesus.
It's Tull.
I think it's only one L, Tulosesus. I think that's how you spell it. There might be two L's, but I think it's only one. Yeah, look through that. I think this is Coprinellus though, and it's just it's actually a partial, our universal veil that makes those grains. It's just a really scant universal veil that they have, and as soon as the cap starts opening, it just breaks apart into the mica flakes, they call them, but they get washed off pretty easily in rainy weather.
Yeah, I mean, every year we get a whole mess of these come about, and it's like, these are usually like the first things with gills I see.
Yeah, well, the Coprinellus section Mycacia is one of the first things I see, and sometimes I go up looking for morels, and there's no morels out yet, but I find these, and or I find the Coprinellus, assuming that's what these are. But the habitat, the growth pattern, all of that seems to fit Coprinellus. Now, I'm not sure about Coprinopsis spores. I haven't looked at any of those in a while. But Coprinellus mycaceus will have spores that, depending upon how they lie under your mount, under your slip, some of them will be what's called mitriform. So they're shaped like a bishop's mitre. So there's usually a certain percentage, and but if you use like a smash mount, they might not profile correctly to see that. So it's better to get a thin print and mount that. And all you need is water or KOH. You don't need any stain with these because they're really dark. They're black under the scope. So I think these are Coprinellus.
And I got piles of these everywhere in my yard.
Yeah, that looks like Peziza varia. So I just looked it up a little while ago after discussing with Hunter. Peziza varia has big spores. They're over, well over 20 microns long, close to 30 sometimes. And they're more or less smooth. I mean, if you really get them under high magnification, like 1,000 power, you might be able to see a little bit of ornamentation on the outer wall, but they're pretty much smooth. I don't think that they have oil drops in them. Oh, here we go.
I could not get any loose spores. I've been messing with these things for 3 days.
I know. You know what happens with these? You see them in situ. You touch them. A giant cloud of spores comes flying off.
I'm on top of that. I've been dropping slides on them.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Sometimes
for days.
You know what? Because they got rained on, probably the rain just knocked all the mature spores out of the asci. So all you've got now is asci with immature spores in them.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell anything from that.
I got some. Yeah, look. There you can't like almost nothing on like even after cutting them out, almost nothing.
Yeah, they're kind of shaped like various spores, but you would really see, mature ones to get dimensions and see if there's any kind of ornamentation develops.
I thought the attachments were pretty cool on these.
So this is the ends of the asci, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
They have that trap door on the end, or
That's the other end.
No,
Oh yeah.
no?
no, these didn't have any of that.
Let's see are there any paraphyses mixed in there? I don't see any.
No, I didn't see any.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
You could see like some of them are just, I mean, I don't, maybe maybe
you know
these
what?
real
These
thin
septate
ones.
things might be paraphyses. See in the background, they're
That's what
not.
I was thinking. The thin stuff.
Yeah, that might be paraphyses. Let me look because I've got it keyed up in Michael Quebec. I'll come back in a minute.
But yeah, you
Yeah,
can see the top of this one. There's no little, what do you call that? Is that that's not. I forget what that little trapdoor is called.
Yeah, I don't remember the name either.
I think it's called the
Percolator.
operculate.
Percolate, because
Cap
Seaver has
or
two
something
books,
like that.
one with the inner percolator and one with just the operculator.
Yeah, these ones seem to just be kind of either not open at all or like that one there open. And the open ones, empty.
cool. That's nice microscopy.
I was doing this and I totally got my my 40 times objective wet.
With
I'm
what?
gonna have to have this thing cleaned.
With what?
Mm.
What were you using?
Oh, it was just the water came out of the
Oh,
edge of the slide and I wasn't paying attention.
just water though.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried about that with the stains because they're always seeping out under the slide cover for me. I need to get that tool that Dave has that minimizes the drop size. I haven't found that yet though.
I have a thing that I made. Dave mentioned a mitriform spore, and let's see.
Oh,
Can you guys see that?
yeah.
I made a mitriform shape.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Looks exactly like a hardware plum.
It's a piece of walnut.
Yeah, looked like black walnut to me. Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Trying to like think what a mitriform shape is in your head isn't always easy. So I made one.
Yeah. I can see a whole collection of spore shapes in your future, Chris.
Listen, it might happen. Boredom gets me,
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
But that's all I had.
So
Thank
I
you,
just
Chris.
looked on Michael Quebec under Peziza varia, and the paraphyses, they do look kind of like that. They're septate with where the septa are. There's a little bit of a constriction.
Yeah, they're like kind of in and out.
Yeah. I think that's what you have here. I think you have Peziza varia.
But I got a truckload, literal truckload of wood chips last fall. So these things are just everywhere.
Yeah. They love wood chips. They love woody debris, wood chips.
They don't grow
phylogeny grows
in the
on
wood
that stuff
chip.
too.
They'll grow in the dirt next to the wood chip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
every time.
Oh. Well, I find them like when I'm looking for morels and apple orchards, I find them like where there's an old apple tree that's really decayed and pushed, it's fallen down and it's just all rotting. And I'll find them in or near that sort of debris.
Okay, does anybody else have anything before we go over to Dave? Okay, Dave, are you ready to go?
Sure. Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
Yeah, so Hannah Huber, she might be here tonight. Sometimes she attends Taxonomy Tuesday. Hannah is the official Pennsylvania fungal conservationist. And so she came up to visit us on Friday, Karen and I, and the three of us went to 3 different state parks in search of Sarcosoma globosum, that thing that Susan Hopkins shows when she comes on in the spring. She finds it up in the Adirondacks under spruce. And Hannah says that there's an old report by David Schweinitz of Sarcosoma globosum being found in Pennsylvania in the southeast, down like in the Allentown, Bethlehem area, down that way. So we went to 3 different places where there are habitat that seemed promising, including an old growth forest of hemlocks that are like 500 years old. But we didn't find the Sarcosoma. But I found these. This is the earliest I've ever seen Xeromphalina. And this is Xeromphalina campanella. It's the one that grows on conifer, as this was on hemlock. Although I have to, there's a caveat here. These 2 species are the most commonly collected and reported species, Xeromphalina campanella, Xeromphalina kaufmannii. They look an awful lot like one another. You allegedly can tell them apart by the type of substrate, hardwood versus conifer. But there are cryptic species in this sort of group in genus Xeromphalina. So I think I put this on Mushroom Observer and only claimed promising confidence because it could conceivably be one of these cryptic ones. But they're really cool looking. They're really small, but when you look at them close up, they have really cool features. These decurrent gills that are forked, and I think the word is intervenose. They have veins in between them. You can see there. You can see in this photo some of the veins.
Yeah, that's a nice photo.
In between, that was through a loop. This one's through a loop. You can see a little more veins. So they're just cool mushrooms to look at, really. They're pretty common, assuming I've got one of these 2 common species. So I'm calling it campanella, but not with complete confidence. So earliest I ever found these, I never found them quite so early, and this was up pretty far north too. This was north of Montrose, not far from the New York State border. So
Was this one of the days that was 80 degrees, like in New Jersey?
I was just gonna ask that.
No, but that may have been what sort of got them started or ready to fruit. No, but it's been chilly here lately. We haven't had 80 yet, but we did have mid 70s a couple of times. And the day we were out, it was like 50. It wasn't. Oh, it was in the mid 50s. It got up into the mid 50s that day, but they were already out. They had come out before that, so that was a nice fruiting of them.
Are there spores interesting, or they're white? Are they? Is it white?
Yeah, they're white spores in there. I'm pretty sure that they're lacrimoid, meaning they're kind of teardrop shaped. I'm pretty sure. So I didn't bother to So seeing the spores was not going to help me say anything about these that I can't
Yeah.
already say. So I
Gotcha.
had other stuff to look at under the scope. I'm only showing here 5 things that we found, but there were actually like a dozen. And some of the stuff that I identified, I needed to scope in order to identify. And there's a couple of things coming up that I'm still like a little bit confused about, but this one I'm not confused about, as long as it's not one of those cryptic things.
Yeah, I like that mushroom.
Yeah, they're fun to find. So here's a so I don't know this. Karen usually names the lichens when we go out, and so she figured out this one. It's not a name that I recognized offhand, so I included this one in my 5 things that I'm showing. So it's what's the name there? It's got a lot of stuff all over. You want to look at
Saxatilis?
Saxatilis? Yeah, Parmelia
I mean,
saxatilis.
I'm not 100% sure of that.
Are you not
'Cause
100%
I'm
sure?
not familiar with this species. I don't think I've found it before.
Maybe I'll change it to promising then on Mushroom Observer. But what's all this stuff all over this? That
That's
Ceridia or
those are Exidia.
Exidia? Okay. Well, there's these little bumps like on the leafy parts too. You know, are those Exidia also, or just this stuff that's like on the fringes?
No, I think they would all be called Exidia.
All Exidia. Okay. So it's kind of a cool looking lichen, very difficult to photograph. This last photograph was actually the best one, but I bet you I took 40 photographs of this thing, you know, and these 5 are like the best. And the only one that's actually turned out like as pretty much as well as I wanted was that last one. And this one's this not through a loop. So all of these photos, I think most of them I tried to take through a loop, and I'm not sure. Sometimes the loop doesn't work really well. Because if you have all these little stuff sticking out all over the place, then the loop just like accentuates the problem of stuff not wanting to be in any given plane, you know, in the view.
So this was just on a piece of bark?
What was that on? Was that on bark?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you get a shot of the underside to look at the rhizines?
Oh, we still have this, right? It's on the table.
I think so.
I can go get it.
That's how you tell apart Saxatilis from squarosa. If the rhizines are squarose, then it's squarosa, and if they're is furcate or forking, then it's Saxatilis.
You want to get it? Okay, Karen's
So
going to get it.
What's squaros?
Karen says she
Squaros
thinks
means-
they were not squaros, but we're going to get it and look at it. And I'll put it in the put it right in the camera.
So the rhizines are these little hair-like structures on the underside that attach the lichen to the substrate. And if it's squaros, it'll have perpendicular lateral sub-branchlets that all come out kind of like a, you know, Christmas tree or something, you know, one big main rhizine with lots of little perpendicular ones coming out the side.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
if it's furcate, then it'll be like a snake's tongue, you know, it comes out and then just forks into a V.
Okay, so that's the one kind, and the other kind has like the branches coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the 2 possibilities, like a forked snake's tongue, or little branchlets coming off perpendicular to the main branch. Yeah, it's actually a pretty small piece. So she's looking now with her loop. We can go to the next thing if you want, and then maybe Karen will, if she finds anything, you know, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I need to look at this under the scope.
Yeah, she needs to look at it under the scope. So we're not sure about this one.
Are those,
It's good to know, you know.
are the rhizomes white?
Not squaros.
No, the rhizines are black.
Oh, Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
Karen says she's pretty sure she looked before, like a couple days ago, and the rhizomes were not squaros, is what
Yes,
she's remembering.
that would suggest saxatilis.
Okay, yeah, I think that's maybe why
But
she came to that ID.
but it's odd to find saxatilis on bark. Saxatilis means grows on rock. Saxiculus.
Definitely on bark. That's the bark here.
Yeah, it's definitely on bark.
It's not impossible to find it on bark, but it
Yeah.
90% of the time you find it on rock.
Okay.
This is neat looking.
Yeah, this was on the end of like where a log was sawed, like the sawed surface. So it was probably a log that fell across a trail, and the state park guys, cut through the log to get, open up the trail.
How true is this color?
Yeah, that's it. That's if not even a little brighter in first person.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. Yeah.
Yes, we have 3 species of Xanthomendoza in our area, and I think this is the only one that does not have Ceridia. You can confirm this, Dave, if you have some KOH and you still have the specimen, it should turn deep purple, and a UV light should be non-reactive.
Well, I've got KOH. I've got some strong KOH that I keep around to look at reactions, like 10. Well, it used to be 10%. It might have weakened over the years, but it still works on boletes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll put some of that on. It's a small piece. This is very small. This thing is, I think a dime would cover the whole thing up.
Should I test that?
I don't know. I didn't put anything in the notes.
Maybe I tested a different thing.
I don't think you did. I don't see any part of it that looks like it was broken off. I'll do it later. Yeah, okay, we
Yeah,
can
I'm
do
pretty-
that. Thanks, Jason.
I'm pretty sure it'll be K plus purple, but the UV negative reaction will differentiate it from other species, I think.
react. You have a light, don't you?
It doesn't seem to be any good because
Oh.
I can never see any reaction.
Maybe you have to take it outside in the dark.
No, I mean, you have to do it in the dark.
No,
light.
they're the wrong wavelength.
It's just not a good light.
Yeah.
Okay, this one had me confused, and I'm still a little bit hesitant to say that's what I think this is. Trichaptum, what is it? Subcartum, something like that. Subchartaceum. Yeah, so certainly there are characters that match, especially the upper surface, which is whitish and looks almost like a Trametes or something. It's kind of hairy. The Hymenium is, it depends that there are a few of them. These were all found like on sticks on the ground in 1 square yard. So, and I looked at spores from 2 different fruit bodies, and they're the same. So the spore morphology fits. These irregularly shaped angular pores fits. The one specimen, one of the small ones, the walls of the tubes are long and lacerated and split apart and not very good shape. That fits. But I looked for something under the microscope besides spores, and I don't, I tried to just break off a tube wall and mount it. First, I softened it up with some alcohol, and then tried mounting it in some KOH, or no, water. I think I just used water. And I don't know. I'm guessing these things I'm finding here are just hyphal strands, just strands of hyphae that got ripped apart or broken off. But I don't know. Maybe these are cystidia. They don't look like they're encrusted though.
The next one looked like you had like a little head on something. You see that right there?
That's why I took a picture of this one. So that actually, maybe that is an encrusted cystidium. So that was the only one I found that looked like that. And that was the best picture I was able to get. But that's actually not a terrible picture. That's pretty much what it looked like. So yeah. So I think that's what I have here, but I only put it up as could be confidence on Mushroom Observer because I don't know this species very well. And it just doesn't really remind me of Trichaptum all that much, but I guess this species is just maybe a little different than the really common species of Trichaptum. So I think that's what it is.
Do you know if the stick was hardwood or conifer?
It was in an area where there were a lot of hemlocks, and this is why I took a picture of the stick. I think one of the last photo is better. I think there's a photo right near the end that gives you a close up on the stick. You have to, scroll all the way over. So I don't know. This could be a hemlock stick. I mean, it could be a birch. There probably is some poplar in the area, not that much. I mean, it's mixed woods, but it was a lot of hemlock in this woods, but with some hardwoods growing in between.
You could
So there
talk
could have
me
been
into
some
birch
poplar.
on that.
Yeah, birch was my first guess.
Yeah, it reminds me of birch. But Michael Quebec says that although this species, this Trichaptum species, supposedly grows on poplar, it also grows on other hardwoods sometimes. So I don't know. I'm not real confident about this ID proposal, but there's one of the photos that if you zoom in on the Hymenium, I think it's either this one or the next one. I'm not sure. You can see this one. Yeah, this one here. You can see where the tubes are all torn apart, lacerated, and sort of tooth-like. So, I mean, that is supposed to happen with this species. The color of the Hymenium is it's brownish, although purple is more emphasized in the descriptions. But now this probably overwintered. It was probably there since last fall. So the color may have changed a little bit, but it's still pretty dark. It's brown. So I don't know. The spores fit. The spore shape and size fits the species.
Seems like a good thought.
Well, I didn't come up with anything any better than this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Sure, you're welcome. Oh, I didn't send you the same one twice, did I?
No. Just
This was interesting. In the old growth hemlock forest in Salt Spring State Park, Hannah found these. There was just this one little area where they were, and they're growing right from these thin hemlock twigs and thin branches. And my guess is these things overwintered. I think they're probably some sort of Mycentinis, maybe Mycentinis opacus, but I don't know. They might be a little bit. I mean, Mycentinis opacus, it dries out and then rehydrates, and it looks like it's fresh when it rehydrates. Used to be in genus Marasmius for that reason. But boy, that would be a heck of a nice preservation. I mean, especially since the winter we had was it was really cold up where this spot where these were found. It was probably 10 below zero, at least 2 different mornings in January. So kind of interesting. I know I tried mounting a little piece of cap and just squished it and looked around. I didn't find anything that looked like what I would expect the spores to look like for this or for any kind of like marosmias.
Can someone write in the proposed name, Mycena?
Mycentinis.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mycentinis.
there it is. Genus Mycentinis. There's only 2 species that you'll see typically documented in indices or field guides, and that would be Mycentinus opacus or Mycentinus scoridonius. This is not scoridonius. I don't think it's scoridonius. I think that one grows pretty much on the ground on conifer litter, like spruce needles and stuff like that. But these were right on the hemlock twigs. And that is what Mycentinus opacus does. That's the way it grows.
Opacus.
Yeah, I think it's OPACUS, I think.
Thank you. Oh yeah. Neat.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing to find. I doubt they just came out this year. I don't think so. Now maybe because we had that really warm weather, maybe they came out. But it would seem really, really early for these. I usually don't see these before June. Well, I don't see Mycentinus opacus until June.
Well, you're
Yeah,
seeing a lot of
the
things that
most-
are early for the year, so I hope that's a good foreboding for seeing us for the good season this
Yeah,
year.
well, it's actually better that things don't start too
Yeah,
early, because then
too
we have a
early,
cold
yeah.
spell like we have now, and it ruins the rest of whatever the fruiting season would be for the thing that wants to come out. But I think, at least around here where I live, I don't think things like morels have started to try to come out yet. So that they'll have to wait for the next warm up, but that's probably a good thing, because it might be below 20 degrees here tonight. So, I mean, if something
Yeah,
was,
we have a freeze warning also.
yeah. Well, if in my experience, if the morels are ready to come out and you have like 1 or 2 nights that are like maybe 28 or 30 degrees, that doesn't seem to bother them too much, because the ground doesn't really freeze solid. And then they'll still come out. But it's supposed to be possibly below 20 degrees tonight here. The ground is going to freeze here.
Ooh,
I think that's it that you sent us, Dave.
I think that's probably it. Yeah, seems like 5. Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to share for tonight?
the mushroom that you were looking for with Hannah, the Sarcomysa.
Oh, sarcosoma.
Yeah, I remember it was a Susan who saw that, a
Right.
different,
She sees it every year in the
yeah.
same spots in the Adirondacks.
Is that where you guys were looking or no?
No, Hannah is interested in seeing if she can find it in Pennsylvania.
I see.
Because she's sort of in charge of compiling a list of species in Pennsylvania with an emphasis on things that are rare, so we can sort of maybe get them on a track for red listing or something, like, some sort of special designation. So, but I have a suspicion. Okay, so Hannah told me that they were documented in Pennsylvania by David Schweinitz. Now that would have been the early 1800s. Probably he used a microscope. So anyway, she says one of the observations that Schweinitz reported said that they were found in like July. That seems highly unlikely, because these things come out in the Adirondacks in early to mid-April, And usually by early May, or mid-May, they're pretty much ready to dry up and go away. So at the latitude of like Allentown, Pennsylvania, finding something like that in July seems highly unlikely. And the type of habitat, now maybe in 1810, maybe there were old growth stands of old growth conifers down there. But I have a suspicion. My suspicion is that Schweinitz's specimens, which he may have not collected, somebody else may have collected them, that they may have been confused with Galliella rufa. That is my suspicion.
So these sarcosomas are there like in the Peziza family?
They're ascos. I don't know what family they're in, but they're in Ascomycete.
Yeah, they seem to be in this Pezizomycetes, according to
Oh, okay. So I
the
think
naturalist.
Galliella rufa is also an asco. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So even if they were studied microscopically, it's possible they could be confused. The two species could be confused, but I haven't really looked into that. So I have a friend who Luke actually introduced me to, David Hewitt, and he's like a big Schweinitz fan. He knows a lot about Schweinitz. I'm going to touch base with him to see if he knows anything about Schweinitz's documentations of.
So this sarcosoma there's only two species on our naturalist. Were you looking for the globosoma?
Globosum. That's the one that grows in the east. Orientale, that's probably Asian. Just judging from the species name, that's probably Asian.
That one looks like Galliella rufa, that Asian one.
Well, yeah, these look a little like Galliella rufa to me. And Galliella rufa changes the way it looks as it matures. As so does this. This thing does as well. Changes the way it looks as it matures. So.
And you're right, it's only in the New Zealand and Vietnam so far listed.
Okay.
For the Oriental, so don't bother looking for that one.
No. Well, any kind of sarcosoma would get us excited if we found it.
Could you show the map for the one that is here in the US?
Okay.
I talked with Susan. Actually, I saw Susan Friday night, and she hasn't found any yet. And it's still very snowy and icy up in her area.
Oh, yeah, it was a cold winter, and they had snow up in the Adirondacks.
Yeah.
We didn't have much here, but they had snow.
Yeah.
Can you show the app for that one?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to it.
Oh, okay. I hope Susan comes back to Taxonomy Tuesday.
I encouraged her.
Good.
Hopefully she will. She said when she starts finding stuff, she probably will.
She's not finding anything up there right now. That's what it is.
Nothing south
it's
of
still snow and
Vermont.
ice on the ground.
Wow, look at how northern that is. Okay.
Yeah, they're northern. The closest is really in the Adirondacks. And maybe in New England. I don't know. Is there any from like Connecticut or Massachusetts?
Just Vermont, nothing south of Vermont.
Yeah, that big orange dot there in New York, that's all hers.
Yeah, that's if you enlarge that red square thing, it's actually like 30 dots and 25 of them are hers, and then there's somebody else that finds them up there also.
Yeah.
So if I can share my screen, we can look at the 1834 Schweinitz record.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Here's the herbarium record for the Salem Bethlehem collection, which it says here received in 1834.
So you don't know where it came from too. That's the other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the actual specimen.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, if he says so,
Is that a penny on the left or just a?
No, I'm not sure what that is, but it's not a penny.
A little magnet.
Yeah,
a little magnet to hold it down. Yeah.
Yes, that's what that is. Yeah. I don't know. That doesn't actually look like Galliella.
How was that thing? It does not, I don't know, it's not in a bag or anything. I mean, it just, what do they glue it there?
At one point early on, they were gluing some specimens to things I learned the other day, but then they stopped doing that. I don't know. Yeah, if that was the 1830s, they might have still been gluing them.
What's the old genus? Bulgar.
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
Yeah, I think that genus is still around. And they are ascos, and they're small, licorice-like things.
Yeah,
They're
Bulgaria
black.
nigricans is one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that grows on wood though, right?
Yes, that grows on wood.
Yeah.
Here are
And then
the
there's another
United
thing,
States.
pseudo Bulgaria maybe grows like on the mossy bases of trees.
Yeah.
Here are all the records for the United States.
Can you make that a little bigger, Jason?
So lots from the mid 1900s, Montana, Oregon, Idaho, way over to California, and then a whole bunch of Susan Hopkins, New York, and naturalist records.
Nice.
But she's finding them, May 17th, May 1st, April 25th.
Yeah, I still might go out and look
April
under
2nd.
some spruce trees, maybe in early May. I'll see.
Here's March 25th.
March 25th. Yeah.
March 30th.
Yeah, those had to be warmer, less snowy winters.
Yeah.
She said there's a lot of tree damage, and a couple of the areas where she would find them, she can't get to because of damage by the tree, took out a footbridge across some kind of a stream.
Oh.
And so she's not sure when the state or whoever owns it is going to get around to replacing that footbridge. And she's not about to wade across the stream. So she may only be able to observe it at one spot. It sounded like most of the spots that she went to were beyond this bridge that's out.
Well, thank you for telling us about sarcosoma, and when we go north, we can go look for it. I don't think I'd spend my time in New Jersey.
Yeah, to go up there in the spring before the black flies, though. So that's actually, that's a little bit encouraging.
Well, when do black flies come out? Don't they come out in June or something?
Yeah, I think like May and June. Yeah, they're bad. They're bad up in the Adirondacks.
Yeah. Well, they're bad down here when I see them too.
Yeah, the one thing that struck me on that dried specimen was the stipe, which, a lot of the photos I'm seeing online that they're in situ, but
it
hard to
seems
tell if they
unlikely
have
that
that stipe.
those globose things would dehydrate and the base would constrict in the way that one looked. I agree, Jason. I noticed that also. It just seems unlikely. So I wonder what I have to think about this. What could that be if it's not sarcosoma? Gonna have to read
Crenula.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That thing looked kind of crenula to me. Had a little bit of that margin going on with the stipe.
Crenula? I'm sorry, you have to refresh my memory.
Is that an epithet, crenula, or is that a genus?
I think Brandon just got dropped. I'm not sure.
He's
Oh
still
no,
listed
I'm
as a
still
participant.
still
Oh,
still
you're
here.
still there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I'm
was,
sorry. I'm not
just,
sure what species you're referencing.
I was just looking it up, but I muted myself.
Oh,
What
okay.
is
I'm
it?
sorry.
Crenula unulata, I think it is.
Urnula.
Urnula. Yeah,
Urnula. Right. Urnula.
Okay.
Criterium.
Praetorium, Criterium,
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay. That's an asco. It's not filled with jelly though. Like Sarcosoma is. Interesting though. That's an interesting
Can we look at
suggestion.
it again? The old,
You wouldn't find that in July either though. That's an April species. In
yeah, I'm
Pennsylvania.
seeing it now.
It doesn't really look like Urnula either.
The outside
Okay.
flesh does kind of say sarcosoma or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
it's veiny. It looks veiny.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a dried specimen from what, 200 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have a few more minutes. Lila indicates she has some more lichens that we could look at.
Sure.
Take a look at this. So this is a piece of limestone. You can actually see some fossils on the top side of this chunk of limestone. This is in a rock wall. And I noticed these kind of orangey spots on the side of this rock. So I started to look a little closer, and they were kind of interesting.
So are those apothecia or no?
Yeah. Yeah, the orange, dark orange things.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't get any very good this one's really not in focus. This one is a little better. And that's where most of that orange color is coming from. There's some sort of broken up part of the thallus behind here. Maybe last year's apothecia or something. I don't know what happened.
No, that's just the thallus. It's a yellow lichen with orange apothecia.
Okay.
So the crustose thallus portion is yellow.
So I don't know what it is, but INAT suggested it was in this genus.
Yeah, Gyololechia is. I think that's probably what it is. We only have one species, Flavovirescens. So that's probably what it is. It used to be Caloplaca Flavovirescens, and then got pulled out.
So they're just the one in the Northeast then? Okay. This was up in New York State.
Yeah, but really common on limestone.
Okay. All right. Then one more time on the species.
I already added it to
you added
this
it. Okay,
observation
great.
if you reload it.
All right, thanks. Flavovirescens. Okay, good. All right, I might actually be able to learn that one then. All right. Somebody second my my guess on this one. I don't know if they know what they're talking about. I certainly don't, but this was on the corner of a rock. Not necessarily limestone. It might have been. I can't remember this one, but I thought this was quite interesting. Really hard, almost white with these real dark black apothecia. And this sort of cracked appearance about it. Yeah, it's kind of on the corner of a rock. Pretty big patch of it.
Yeah, it could be. That's a possibility. There's a few other, I don't know. To me, I think they look like skeletons or something, skulls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with
And there's
eye sockets and mouths open or something, yeah.
yeah. So there's a few things that do that. I think we have multiple Diploschistes, and then there's also things like Rhinodyna that I don't know how to tell apart macroscopically.
Okay. Looks like some spots here, maybe they got chipped off. These areas look like something chipped these
Yeah.
things off. But yeah, just as hard as could be, really. All right, so that was that one. Here's this thing well, it's not octopusy looking, but I'm wondering if this is possibly Graphis scripta.
That's cool.
This was on red oak. Well, there were a couple of patches of it, but I was surprised to see it on red oak. I was thinking, it's more on more of a smoother thing, so I'm not really sure.
Are those liralae kind of following the bark?
I don't know.
Like, are they actual liralae, or are they just kind of cracks following the bark?
Yeah, I
No,
thought they
those-
were liralae or whatever.
Yeah, those are liralae. And I call this Graphis scripta.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things I didn't put into my 5 links was we did find Graphis scripta on some birch bark in Ricketts Glen, but not the same area of Ricketts Glen where that other thing was found. And I took it home, and I did find spores on the Graphis scripta. And it takes a little work. You have to scrape a piece off, and I put KOH on it like Jason suggested. That seemed to be a good idea because it did soften up. So I was able to get a pretty good seal on the mount. And I didn't find any free spores like that were not outside asci, but there were lots of views I saw of like spores crammed into an ascus. And they're septate, 5 to 8 or 9 septa, and very, very, really highly variable. The length, there were a few of them that were like well over 30 microns long. So, and that matches. I looked it up. I looked up, descriptions of Graphis scripta, and that seemed to match.
Okay.
I can
right.
send you mine if you want. I can send it right now, actually.
Sure.
Okay, just give me a second.
This is something different, I think, because these apothecia seem to be different shaped and
Yep.
sitting on top, so but somewhat similar to that other one. But different.
Yeah, that might be a Lecidella or could be a Buellia, could be Philhenarea. Look at spores for a lot of these things, I think.
That's on rock.
Yeah, it's on this rock, and there's a lot going on this rock, but it was, these patches here, these gray patches with the black. I don't know.
And does Buellia, because it doesn't look like a Porpidia, there are Buellia species that grow on rock as well, Jason?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Fortunately, for the most part, I think they are pretty obedient. The rock ones always grow on rock and the tree ones only grow on trees.
Pretty consistently like a blue gray thallus type thing with the black apothecia.
Yeah.
With Buellia, not necessarily the other ones. Would you call this one Lycidia?
Yeah, Lycidella.
Yeah, it could be a Lecidella, it could be a Buellia. Sometimes the Buellias can be a little bit more brownish than grayish in the thallus, but
So
or
is
a little
this
bit more
one that gets
whitish.
like the bacteria instead of the
Oh,
No,
cyanobacteria.
cyanobacteria.
Yeah.
No, I think this is still an algae. It would probably look a little bit, and I don't know if this one looks dry, so if you have to wet it to really see the color of the photobiont underneath.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
And while we're just kind of talking about photobionts and things like that, is that normally how it works? Like the cyanobacteria, the bacteria or the algal associate kind of constructs the thallus, and then the fungal partner is responsible for the apothecia, parathecia part of it.
No. So everything is a sandwich. So there's a layer of algae and then a layer of fungi on top in both the thallus and the apothecia.
Or squished within. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, last one. If are we done with that, or
I'll just say the one exception is sometimes there are these structures, I forget what they're called, but sometimes there's cyanobacteria in these distinct little dots that are different, but for the most part, you're going to have a layer of algae throughout the lichen. Now, this is a cyanolichen.
Peltigeria?
Yep.
And
You
these,
see how those apothecia, they're kind of curled?
yeah, these chestnut colored things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one right there in the bottom right, you can see is kind of C-shaped. That's diagnostic. So some species, the apothecia is circular and flat. In some species, they look like this. They're called saddle shaped, like the saddle of a horse.
Mm.
And that's usually a pretty early split in the key that will tell you, one group of species versus another. But with these guys, it's really important to get a photo of the underside.
See if I did that.
So you can see some pubescence on the top there, that white frosted stuff.
Thought I turned a piece of this over. There we go. This is the underside of
Yeah.
it.
Those veins.
And then it has these, I guess these are rhizines coming off.
So
So those would be the forked ones?
yeah.
I kind of had
It's
several little sprouts, if you will, it looked like on the ends. Well, this one is a singleton, but these two bigger ones had 3 or 4 things, I would say, coming off of it.
Where was this growing?
This was kind of grown everywhere. Always seemed to be in this, mixed with this moss and over top of some kind of a rock. I don't think I have a zoomed out photo uploaded, but I think this is a piece of the rock behind it here.
It's neat looking. I haven't seen anything like that.
Mhm.
See, I'm pretty sure this is Piltigira praetextata, which is the most common species that I see in New Jersey.
Okay.
Hairy top with the saddle-shaped apothecia.
And the hairy top being this white stuff, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the saddle-shaped apothecia. Yeah, well, here's a good one up here. It looks.
Yeah.
Wraps around. All right, cool. Thanks for the help, Jason. I appreciate it.
So if you want to look at that one more, I sent the email.
So you're going to pull that up?
Yes, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, so while we're waiting to see it, this one is kind of interesting because some of the laurelay are crossed and branched, like that thing that we thought may have been a Phaeographus. So you can see there's some branched ones.
Cool.
Yeah. This was also on birch bark. But I think this is Graphis scripta because I think the spores for Phaeographus are not as long or have as many septa as the Graphis scripta ones. So here you can see they're inside the ascus, right? So they're a little bit hard to make out, but you can at least get an idea how long they are. This one's not real long. This one in the lower, there's a pretty long one in the lower right. And then there's a pretty long one in this ascus in this last photo also. So those are probably close to 30 microns long. And I think the one larger one in the other photo, this one's probably over 30 microns long. And according to what I read online, the spores can get pretty long. In fact, I think the one source says they could be as long as 70 microns. Now, I didn't see any that big, but the ones I found are not they're not mature. They're still inside the ascus.
They have a very Michelin man to them.
Yeah. 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 They look like they're made out of stacked tires of different sizes, sort of. But at least I was able to find a lot of spores. So at least it renewed my confidence a little bit that I can study something like this, because the other thing we found a little over a week ago, I tried like 4 times. I couldn't find any spores. And it wasn't that hard. I just scraped off a little bit of one of these apothecia and tried to chop it up a little bit and then softened it and got a pretty good seal on with the slip. And I just used I think I used KOH.
It is encouraging.
So let me see. There's 1, 2,
Septate
3.
spores there, is that what we're looking at, Dave?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a spore that the pointer is pointing right at a spore. It's got like 5 septa. So
Mhm.
if you just go to the right of the pointer, and there's another spore right by the pointer, but it's fairly well blurred. The other one's not that great either. The other
Mhm.
2 photos, you get a little bit better view of spores inside the ascus. So there's an ascus with spores jammed into it. And then in the lower right, there's another ascus with spores jammed into it.
Mhm.
So the blue tint was just because of the setting I put my camera on.
Oh, I thought it was in cotton blue or something.
No, I was having trouble getting my camera to focus. So I tried a few different settings, and I tried one of the artificial light settings seemed to work a little better, and that's what this is.
Right. So everybody can find Graphis stricta because the rocks are out there.
Yeah, and they're not quite like stellate, like star shaped, like that other thing that we found. But some of them are kind of crossed or maybe branched. It's hard to tell if they're branched or if they're just lying on top of one another. Some of them seem to be probably branched. Yeah, right there. That one looks like it's branched. And some of these, yeah, over on, yeah. Huh. So, yeah, so Graphis scripta can, the Lorelei can be kind of variable in the way they look.
Yeah, if this was the Theographis inusta, the spores would be brown instead of hyaline. I think
Oh, okay.
That's how you tell them apart. So
Yeah, I think they're smaller also. I think the spores are smaller and not as many septa. I think I'd have to review that because I looked at it about a week ago and I think I remember.
Okay. Thank you, Dave, and everyone else who has presented and contributed for us to share these photos. Next week, I believe the topic is going to be morels, and I guess the lookalikes, false morels. Chris, do you have anything you want to say about next week?
No, I hope other people have pictures of morels to share, because I certainly don't. I never find any.
Me too. I have never found a morel myself. I
Oh.
always just let everybody else beat me to them all.
I'm not sure we'll have any yet by Tuesday. Maybe it's supposed to warm up on Monday, so they're going to come out next week. Whatever comes out, the black morels will come out next week around here.
Or we can pull up ones from prior years and
Oh, okay.
right? Hunter will probably find some before we will anyway in Southern Illinois, but yeah.
Oh, she'll find. Hunter, are you still here? Did you have a Brunia to show? What is that called now? Maro gyromitra or something? Or I can't remember the new genus name.
She left.
Oh, she left. Okay.
All right, gang, I'm gonna drop too. So have a good week. Thank you.
Oh, yep, you're welcome. Thank you. See you next week.